thinking. You might think, well, you know, how do I turn this into a product that's more tangible, more consistent, more standardized? And so once you've got that, then you might think about, well, you know, how do I turn this into an online course, or how do I turn this into an app, or how do I turn this into software? But this is really just the first few steps for the productizing. The first is to capture the tacit knowledge that's in your head, and also occasionally to create or find more if needed. So sometimes then, you know, then once you start to write things down, you might think, well, is there a better way of doing this? So it might take you off into doing a bit of research and seeing what other people do, seeing if there's better ways of doing things or faster ways of doing things. Once you've got that written out, then kind of abstract it, sort of look for the meta steps into some more simple categories. And if there's too many of those, then you can break, you know, you can abstract those even more. Thirdly, and this is probably the most important step and something that people skip to their peril, or at their peril, which is the thinking about the customer journey. So it's very easy if you're a consultant doing this type of work to think about you, to think about your view, you know, what makes your life easier. But it's also important to think about what do the customers see? What are the touch points with the customer? What's their experience? Can their experience be made any easier? And that's not just the service itself. That's also how do they come into contact with the service? What's their process of interacting with you or your product or service for the first time, all the way through to the sales process, all the way through to the implementation? What's the end-to-end experience for the customer? And obviously, if you've got customers that have gone through that, you know, it's worth talking to them about their whole experience. But that's the step that I often feel is missed out. Once you've got something that you think is viable, share it with some clients, ideally implement it perhaps at a cut price with some clients to get feedback, and then implement the feedback. Then package it and brand it, ideally consistently with your own unique value proposition and the own branding you've got in your firm that Martin will talk about in a few sessions' time. And then if you can, once it's sort of out there, it's more mature, it's been tested a few times, to supplement it or improve it with other products that will make it easier or faster or cheaper for you to run. And that might be around outsourcing it or automating it. Once you've got it, step 7 is really around sort of how do you do the PR around it. So, you know, if you've got a product, that's one thing, but if you've got a product that has been shown to have effects, or you can capture some feedback, or you can write a report on it, then there's always the opportunity for publishing that or presenting it at a conference and saying, you know, my 12-step system for, or the moonshot approach to whatever, however you want to brand it. Then if you can write a report around it, it certainly gives it more legitimacy and gives you the opportunity for more PR work for that product or service. I wanted to talk briefly about an example, and this I checked with the lady who runs this, a wonderful woman called Deborah Fleming, who runs a consultancy called Chameleon Consulting, and she was one of our previous clients. She's got 2 big interests in life. One of them is sort of personality testing. She worked with MBTI, and she's been doing that for years, and she does a lot of leadership coaching around MBTI. And the other one is wine, and she was president, or I think treasurer, of the Oxford Wine Society. And you know, when we spoke to her on the Zoom, she would always have this huge double fridge full of wine behind her. So as well as doing that, she's created and is still developing. In fact, I'm doing a bit of work with her on developing this. Her personality of wine product, and we had the pleasure of going through this ourselves, didn't we, gents? And it was absolutely wonderful. I've actually run this with her a few times with IBM, but the idea is that you combine wine tasting with personality testing, which sounds a bit out there. Deborah assures me there is science behind it, but the wonderful thing is that you get to teams of leaders away from their, typical day-to-day work, get them in a wine tasting situation, do a bit of sort of MBTI personality testing with it, and a whole host of fun exercises sort of around designing labels or describing your wine to suit a personality of somebody that's different to you. And it's great fun. Now, the wonderful thing about this is that it acts as a fantastic lead for her. She's getting all of these very senior executives at top firms, slightly hammered, in a venue where she has them completely captured, and they all have a great time. And so it's wonderful advertising for her and her services. And of course, it's not surprising that she then gets called back to help with strategy or change programs or leadership facilitation or coaching and things like that. We're currently working with Deborah at the moment to take this even further, to look at the potential of franchising it. She wouldn't mind me sharing that, because it's something she'll be finishing in the next few months. So this, I think, is a really good example. There's loads of boring examples out there that we could have shared about sort of, project management software and the like, but I think this is a really lovely example because it combines something that the client really, or Deborah really loves, and something that she's really good at, so wine and MBTI stuff. So it is worth thinking outside the box, as well as sort of thinking about your business side, also thinking, what else are you really good at? What else do you love that you might be able to combine with this? And another example actually that just sprung to mind is a wonderful woman called Micah, who I worked with, who used to do a lot of hiking and also did leadership coaching, and she ended up combining leadership coaching, mindfulness and hiking in a product that was also, very successful, a bit harder to commodify, but it is worth thinking outside the box on these things.